Boom, 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 everybody. Happy Saturday to you. My name is Don Terrell. I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion. I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades, and I highlight people of color in diverse background in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I am just crazy about. Again, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time this Saturday afternoon. Like I said, I hope you're having a great Saturday so far and a great weekend so far. We are here each and every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, Facebook group for the show, and on Instagram. You can connect with us there. But like I said, I always highly encourage everybody to get connected onto the Facebook or the YouTube channel there. That way they can engage with everybody else. So super excited about that. If my voice sounds a little deeper today and I'm dragging a little bit more, hopefully you joined us Thursday for our very special live Color of Motion live stream. It was our Boz episode, Blood of Zeus premiere episode. That was a fun episode. So I have to thank, again, our family member and friend, Aubrey and Dukes, for kind of setting it up and helping to get Joseph Gonzalez, the compositing supervisor, on the show to come on as well. So it was a great episode. If you didn't catch it live and haven't had a chance to check it out, go to the channel and check it out. Like I said, it was a great episode. And like I said, if you're a Blood of Zeus fan or haven't checked out season 3 yet, you need to go check it out. It just dropped. So that was a great one. What else? I haven't thrown this in, but as always, we do love your support, and I love a cup of coffee. Buy me a cup of coffee. That helps me to continue to create this great content and have all these great guests and friends come by the show. So buy me a cup of coffee.com. Let me drop that again. Buymeacoffee.com. / Don Terrell. That'll definitely, like I said, help support the channel and the content that I put up as well. What else? Man, like I said, season 5 has been going just like gangbusters. This 5-year anniversary season. I always forget the confetti, I really do, even if it's for a little bit. So I'll just throw in the confetti. So it's a celebration year. And as always, we're doing giveaways and prizes all year. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel during the live broadcast, during any of the live broadcasts, you get a great gift sent to you. So definitely that is hopefully an incentive. Get you some Color of Motion gear. We got all kinds of, the store is open. We got all kinds of gear and swag there. So definitely check out colorofmotion.net /swag and pick you up something nice. All right. Let me I can stop the confetti now. All right. Like I said, I'm super excited about this episode because like I said, last week or Thursday, really, we really did talk about, the whole compositing and the production of the Blood of Zeus. But this episode, we get to talk a little higher level in the production pipeline of just, producing, financing, and that. So I'm super looking forward to sitting down because like I was telling him, there's a lot going on in the industry right now, both good and bad. And so I'm looking forward to sitting down, diving into this conversation. With that, I think we can get this show on the road. What do you say? Yes, we are back. And like I tell everybody, hop into the comments. Say, hey, where you tuning in from, because you know how I like this to be an interactive and engaging experience. So please make sure that you hop into the comments and say, hey. My next guest, like I said, I've been super looking forward to sitting down and talking with him. He is a trailblazing producer, writer, and founder of Bypass Hollywood, a blog that encourages everyone to greenlight themselves. He's dedicated to empowering diverse voices in animation, motion graphics, and storytelling. With over 22 TV development deals secured in under 2 years and a portfolio that includes animated and live action projects centering around underrepresented communities, my kind of guy. He bridges entertainment, inclusion, and innovation. Please, everybody, help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Mr. Jeff Rivera.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I love it. That's great. What a great welcome.
Now, this is, like I said, like I always tell everybody, we like to bring our guests on and make them shine like the superstars that they are. And again, put the spotlight on them. So thank you so much for coming on and spending a little time with us to talk about what you've been working on, the industry, and just kind of, your journey. So
yeah, I'm excited.
I always like to start
today,
though.
and I'm excited. So welcome me.
I do always like to start though. What kind of kicked you off on this journey early on? Was there something early that kind of got you interested in wanting to story tell, animation, movies, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this in some form since I was a little kid. I remember writing stories in first grade and about the kids in the first grade, and the kids would say, "You better watch out, or he's going to write a story about you." And so, and I didn't even know that it was called writing. I just like to do it. And that was in first grade. In second grade, Mrs. Roscoe, she announced in front of everyone how great of a writer I was. And then I really wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a published author. I was able to accomplish that later on. But that was the first exciting thing. But really, my sister and I and my little brother, we all have big imaginations. So we were, you know, we grew up in, a very poor environment, and so that really created an amazing environment to do like creative stuff, like pretending with our toys and creating stories, writing songs. So that's really where it began.
Yeah. Yeah, I can attest to that for sure. And I tell my family all the time, "You lucky I can't write, because I'd be writing all kinds of stories about my family and what
Uh-huh.
goes on." um, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's always great for you though. Unlike you, you had, like you said, your siblings were kind of creative as well. Well, not to say that mines weren't, but I don't know if they were creative in different arts, the arts area. Is that what you mean when you say creative, or were they in like just totally different, you know, professions?
Definitely the art. So my sister is a songwriter. She's been a songwriter since she was like 7 or something like that, 7 or 8 years old. She just naturally wrote songs. And my brother, he's now a DJ. He's a DJ, national DJ. So he's creative that way with music. My mom is a songwriter and a poet as well. So definitely the creative vibe is comes from that side of the family.
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, so was this initially, you know, kind of where did you start at? I mean, I know you didn't initially start out, just producing and, what you're doing now. Kind of tell us a little bit, give us the hot points of your journey. Where did you start as far as what you were doing, and then how did you transition from that to the next big step, and then this step where you're at?
Sure. Yeah. So I was a child actor in Oregon and did local commercials and things like that. Um, I remember the first audition I think I went on was, I think it might have been like 10 years old. And I got myself the audition. I was like a go-getter. I went, opened up the yellow pages. There was a local TV show. I convinced the producer to let me audition. I was not very good.
Oh wow.
But what I was really great at, yeah, I wasn't very good, but it was, 10. But I actually came up with a segment idea for the show. And the producer said, "Oh, I love that." And she used it from that point on. I didn't get paid for it or acknowledged or credited, but
Welcome to
she
Hollywood.
literally, yeah, she literally said, "I love that." She used that segment in that show called Popcorn. From that moment on, I came up. I said, "I want to. I think there should be a segment called, What's Poppin'." She goes, "I like that, and I'm going to use it." And she did. She used it. So thank you for that.
Oh
Uh,
man.
robbing from a 10-year-old. Thanks. So then I went on to continue to write, and oh, so we moved from Oregon to Las Vegas during the job boom. This was like late '90s, and then I got a job as a producer's assistant, and then I got a job. Well, I really started doing like extra work, like on movies. My first movie that I did as an extra was Casino, and I was 17 years old. I was not supposed to be in the casino at all, um, but I learned so much just being on the set, watching, asking questions. I got to meet some cool celebrities. Just learned a lot. I had no idea what an actor did or anything like that. So I learned a lot. And then I got to that. I ended up getting a job as a casting director's assistant for the casting director who casted me that years later. Um, and I learned so much. I had no idea, other than writing, I really didn't think of myself behind the scenes. So this casting director saw something in me. She knew I could do it. And before long, I was running all those castings. I was, casting films and TV shows and commercials and
Yeah.
video games and stuff like that. And I was about 24 years old. And she put a lot of trust in me. And I just had
Oh,
a natural knack for a lot of different things. Was on the sets all the time. So many cool things.
that's amazing in and of itself because you didn't go to schooling and go that route of making your
No,
connections through
no.
schooling and just the kind of other, I guess, direction a lot of other people kind of go, that route. So that in and of itself is like you said, amazing. But again, you alluded to it. You were a go getter, and I think as a that type of person, you kind of have to kind of make your own kind of fortune, kind of thing, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Success.
was Right. I was definitely an entrepreneur at a very young age. My sister was also. You're kind of born with that skill set. It probably came from our grandparents were very much entrepreneurs, especially my grandmother. So yeah, I mean, I was a go getter right away. I knew what I wanted, and I didn't go the traditional route at all. And that really paved a path toward what I'm doing now. I learned back then people would say, "Oh, you're all over the place," and this kind of thing. But they didn't realize, and maybe I didn't realize, it was preparing me for what I was going to do now. I
Yeah.
needed to be all over the place. I needed to dabble in this. I need to learn these skill sets, these relationships that I still have today. Um, so yeah, it was a good things. But Don. So after a casting director assistant, I continued to write. I self published this novel called Forever My Lady. I learned how to market online. This is very early. This is back when they had message boards, and I ended up getting such a big following that I got my book acquired by Warner Books, and that
Mm.
was then rebranded as Grand Central Publishing. So I got my first novel I'd never written, was published by a major publisher, and I from there I started interviewing people, and I started to write for Huffington Post and did like hundreds of interviews with high profile people, develop relationships with book publishing people, producers, movie, music, everything, and then from there started doing marketing for those people. I was not classically trained as any of those things. I just used random instincts and what made sense.
I
And
see. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
just
I
getting ready
didn't
to
go
ask,
to film school.
I was just going to ask you hadn't gone to school for any of this, which I think
Nope.
everybody would say practical learning is always the best teacher.
Right.
And not
Yeah.
everybody has that fortune to be able to fall into a job where they can learn practical on the job experience and still have the flexibility of learning, and still keeping
Hmm.
your job, type of thing.
Yeah.
So that was, like I said, very, very fortunate for you. In a sense. Everybody, like I said, just joining on. I hope you're going to join into the conversation here. Mr. Joe Bell, love to see you both during what you're doing. Don and Jeff, yes, do what you're passionate about and do what your purpose is. We'll get you a long way. So I appreciate you tuning in, Joe, and definitely hope to see you back often for sure. So, well, obviously, like you said, your family was creative, so it wasn't like you had a lot of convincing of your parents in what you wanted to do and kind of experiment in doing. Whereas, some people that have parents like mine, my mom and dad weren't like an artist or creative, so kind of showing them that this is the path you want to go and want to do for your living, and them not seeing it. It's different if your parents were coming, like you said, your parents were artists or musician or whatever. They're a little more.
Well, that doesn't mean they
receptive.
supported what I did.
Oh, okay.
They weren't. No, they wanted me to.
I
My
would
mom wanted
figure
me
they
to be
would be a little more understanding. You could go back and say, "Well, Mom, didn't you do it?" Or "Dad, didn't you go out on your own and try?"
Exactly. I mean, they were, but they weren't. And my mom would have loved for me to be a doctor or something like that. So I think that was her dream for me. But it was clear that I was going to be doing my own thing. So after a while, they just sort of like, okay, well, he's going to do what he wants anyway. I think that was more of what it was. But yeah, they would have loved for me to have just done something. They're proud of me. They were very proud
Yeah.
of me. But I think early on, parents are worried. They want to make sure that
Well, like I said, I think as they saw your
stable.
success and how you kind of moved and were starting to build, relationships within the industry, it really does. Like I said, okay, we can see that he's good at what he's doing, and he's happy at what
Yeah.
he's doing, and we'll support that as well. Um, and everybody, like I said, we are going to take a look at the animated short film, or the animated film you're working on, and everything.
Mhm.
I want to dive into, before we jump into that, this, like I said, this is an interesting time, both in animation, both in film, and just both as a content creator, as a creator. And I know you talk a lot about IP and just, people controlling their own kind of content and everything. First off, what do you think about this time that we're in, right now, for a content creator, whether it be it filmmaker, animator, artist, whatever it is, just this time that we're in right now?
Personally, I love this time. There's a lot of changes, and people don't like change. You got to look at it from people's perspective. You've got, you know, forget about the political environment. That aside is enough as it is.
Yeah.
But then um, you also have like all these studios imploding, mergers and acquisitions. We had all the strikes going on, and then on top of that, you have all these tech changes like AI and all these things happening all at the same time. So for people who don't like change, it's very scary for them. They want things to go back to the good old days when people struggled. It's like when you talk to older people, they're like maybe those days weren't so golden. When you really look at them. Um, but
Oh man.
I've always had change. I've constantly had change thrown at me. I've learned to pivot fast from the time I was a little kid. So like to me, I'm used to change. It's not that I love it, but I'm used to it. It's like, okay, well,
Well,
you're gonna
change is,
complain about it, or
I
you're just
mean,
gonna,
you can't stop change.
yeah,
It's an
yeah,
inevitable force that you can't stop.
right,
So,
right. You just gotta go with it. And some people are not able to pivot, and that's fine. But I've learned I had to. It was a survival instinct. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to answer your question, Don. I'm excited about this time period because so many cool things are democratizing filmmaking and creativity,
yeah.
ways to make a living. So it's actually a great time.
Yeah, yeah, and I tell people the same thing. Is as hard as the time is, as far as job layoffs and creators trying to
Hmm.
get into studios. It's such fertile ground for monetizing your own content and now going directly to your own audience and building your own audience and monetizing, which isn't to say that that's not going to open up. Trust me, like I tell people, if you do that, you'll open up a ton of other opportunities where those big guys will probably come and knocking if they see you're doing really well on your own and got a big following. But nonetheless, like I said, we live in such, and I mean, I don't know, by my gray hair, I might be a little bit older than you. so, so I've
Maybe,
seen
I don't
this.
know.
I've seen a little bit longer transition of in technology
Hmm.
over this time, but it is an exciting thing to see what creators create as things are as technology is made. You know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
people didn't think about, before Photoshop came along, people
Hmm.
doing it the traditional way. I mean, they're all, like I said, tools to just enhance your creativity. Now, I get
Yeah.
like I said, we can have and we're going to dive deeper into, obviously, the discussion of AI. And that's a
Mhm.
deeper discussion as it comes to, and I've had a number of them with a lot of guests, obviously, that we'll have as the show goes on. But like I said, just green lighting, like you said, this time now we have great opportunities to self fund the
Hmm.
projects, not only create the projects, but self fund the projects and get it out there now. What are some of the stuff that you've seen that you've kind of looked at and like, that's pretty good, and I like the way they did it, and you know, kind of got out there. I think now we're going to start seeing a lot more, like I said, higher level creators and filmmakers and directors start to
Hmm.
vie for that control of their own IP event if it's original IP, you know, type of
Right.
thing.
Yeah. I've seen. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so I see a lot of creators putting really cool content out there, high quality stuff. Production value is very good. So I have this group of men of color. We're kind of this nerdy group of men of color really into like CG and filmmaking and stuff
Well,
like
we're
that.
gonna have to have them
And
on.
one,
We're gonna have to do like a group
yeah,
kind of panel
I
type of
got to,
thing. Yeah,
yeah.
to
Well,
talk
we had
about
this
that.
group, and I always lecture them. I said, "Okay, up, it's time for another lecture, Jeff." And I've been telling them for the last 5, 6 years that like not about the tools and the tech; it's about the storytelling.
Yeah.
We're now. I was telling them like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, we're going to get to the point where it's going to be so easy to create stuff that looks the quality of the studio film that the audience doesn't care the tech; they just want a great story with great characters that they're passionate about. And now it's at this point where you can tell a story that looks comparable to studio level. You really can. Some people say, "Oh, it's not there," like it really actually is if you do the work. But let's say it's not. By the end of the year, it's undeniable. You'll be able to create something that looks just as good as any studio. It's not about the budget anymore. It's not about hiring 100 people. It's about like, what's your vision? Can you create a story that's interesting? That's why I always tell people, there's some cat videos that were made for 99 cents on an iPhone that are more compelling and get more views than these $200 million budget films. It's not about the budget.
No, it definitely isn't. I mean, and we've seen that. Yeah, we've definitely seen that over time. I think, um, my feeling is I don't think, and as much as I love AI, both generative AI and some of the things that people are creating, I still think, it's never going to come close to the human touch and, just the human experience and humanness of it. I don't think AI is ever going to come to the humanness of a creation. It can maybe come close, but that's just my personal opinion. And I think the majority from the conversations that I've had is pretty much just how the generative AI is learning what it does. Um,
Hmm.
as far as people's styles, artist styles, their work, and things like that, and them not getting compensated or whatnot for it. That's where I think there's still a ton of growth and a ton of room for growth on getting all of the legalities of really protecting creators' rights and how a lot of this generative AI is coming up with its art and stuff and pulling its art
Yeah,
and
but
learning.
and technology doesn't include just AI. There's even iPhones. the just like the quality of
Oh yeah,
the
that's what I mean.
camera on your,
It's not
you
the
know, it's not just, yeah.
yeah. I've seen some
I mean,
films. Yeah, I've seen films that were made all on an iPhone. So it's not that's not the
yeah,
thing. You know, it's the thing.
yeah.
Um,
Unreal Engine looks phenomenal. You see stuff with Unreal Engine,
yeah.
things that people make on their tablets. So it's not just AI. Even if someone's totally anti AI, and you brought up two things that are interesting, Don. I think we need to move past the conversation of like, oh, it's going to replace humans. Like we're past all that. It's just a tool, and it's in the hands of a really great storyteller. Whether you're using clay or fine, painting or writing or pen and pad, like it's just another tool. I don't think it's for me. It's not about replacing human beings at all. It's another tool that can be used. Um, I think the really good artists who are not trying to instigate, will tell you, oh yeah, it's just another tool that I use it to accelerate my storytelling.
No. Now I think it will kind of
Um, I don't
on
think
those
it's
kind of redundant tasks. It'll definitely kind of trim
right.
down. Like say a studio that had like uh I don't know 10 editors or 10 compositors. Maybe with the AI tool they can trim it down to a good AI tool that'll kind of cut down the time. They can trim it down to 8 or 7.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
still taking 3 jobs that people can earn a living from away. And I get it, it's a dance between okay, it's a company. Their business is about earning and making money and cutting costs and
Hmm.
whatnot. You could have that
Yeah.
conversation type of
Yeah.
thing. So that's why I'm encouraged about this time because now artists have this power to really and make even more if they really wanted to. But again, it kind of all alludes back to what you said earlier about yourself being a self-driven person. It's going to take you
Hmm.
being a self-driven person to really build a brand that produces the revenue that it can produce. You out there marketing, going out and doing the things and
Hmm.
creating the things that's going to generate the revenue, but you're not capped. You're not
Yeah, not
capped like you
capped. And I
would be
think
at a
for
job.
right for creators, of today's age, we never would have been able to get 10 or 20 million or $30 million budget for the thing we want to do. We might have one in how many hundreds of thousands get a chance, but even with me with so many relationships with the industry, there's products I just couldn't get past. If someone like me doesn't have an extra $20 million to like throw at hiring 100 people,
Yeah.
I'm able to use the tools I have, whether it be Unreal Engine or iPhone or AI or whatever, to create the story I want to tell without all the red tape. Working with the same people that they laid off on the studios and hand selecting the people so that the quality is where it needs to be, collaborating with people all over the world, and the cost of doing so is so much lower than it would be. It's exciting time for those who are willing to embrace it, and many people have embraced it kind of in the closet. They've been, you talk to these people, they've been dabbling with it here and there. Sometimes the most vocal people on the line who are talking about how bad it is are the ones that have been using it the most behind the scenes
Yeah.
when you really talk to them. So yeah, it's an interesting time. I'm excited about just for creatives, and not just from film and television. I mean, look at music
Oh
that's
yeah.
being
Yeah.
affected by it such a way, which is another great thing. And
Yeah.
it's a great thing. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Well, I mean, if you really look back on it, I think music kind of led that way of ownership rights. Prince and
Hmm.
just going and say, "Hey, this is my work. I deserve to own it."
Yeah.
Type of thing. So it does, really go back a long way with, like I said, creators being able to monetize. Now it's just such a great and easier time. And we have, like I said,
Hmm.
all these things at our fingertips to get whatever idea or whatever it is that's in our head that we want to do out, whether it's for money or whether it's just for self pleasure, creating, type of
Hmm.
thing. We have these tools and things now and avenues now that we can, like I said, build something directly to your audience. I love going directly to my viewers. That's why I love doing live shows and live streaming. I can talk directly with my audience and engage directly with my audience, and build a relationship that way. It's so much more powerful doing it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about the music industry, and I think about like the music industry has really paved the way for a lot of what we've seen all this before. People would say DJs are not real artists because they're taking someone else's
I
material and they're
know.
remixing it. They'll say, "Well,
It's
remember
an
we had
art.
this is in the '90s." Well, I know, but people didn't see it back then. They saw it as whatever they saw it as. And then sampling, that was a big deal in the 90s. Like, oh, they're not real artists, they're taking our material, and they found a way to be able to compensate people. So there is a path, there is a path toward this stuff. Well, I remember in the late 90s also, people would say like, oh, we were these young buck filmmakers, these digital technology, it looks digital cameras, they don't look like real film, they're never gonna look like it, they look like crap for now. And we would think like, but you don't see that it's gonna, we didn't understand. We were like, why do you not see that it's gonna get better? And people were like, no, it's not. And then flash forward to like 3 years
And I
later,
think
everyone's using it.
and everybody has their own taste of what they enjoy working with. There
Right.
are some filmmakers that they love shooting on real film, but just because of the way they love shooting it. There's some they don't have a problem working, with digital. There are some filmmakers that don't like working with CG, having to work with CG. They like working with practical, effects and practical
Yeah,
things.
yeah. And
It's
there's
just
that's another thing. You remember when Toy Story came out and people were like, oh, that's not real animation. That's CG.
yeah,
That's gonna replace these jobs. The same arguments we saw like in the 90s,
yeah.
we still see that some form of it in now.
Yeah, and I said this before. I think that's just the case with innovation
Mm.
and something new. There's always this weird transition of stepping from the old into doing something a different and new way. Just think of the automobile. There was this weird transition from the horse and buggy to the
Yeah.
automobile. There's always a weird
Right.
transition because people are used to doing things this way. And then something
Mhm.
new comes along. They're like, what's this motorized horse and buggy type of, horse and
Mhm.
buggy type of
Yeah.
thing, and it takes a while for it to gain traction. Now it's the norm, you know,
Mhm.
type of
Mhm.
thing. So,
Yeah.
we're getting a
Takes
lot
people a
of,
while to get
I
used
want
to
to
it.
make sure I get some of these comments in here because we're getting some great feedback. Keep it coming. Everybody, Mr. Gaston, hello everyone. Loving the energy in here. I'm glad you're loving it. That's how I try and keep it and make sure that you come back, Mr. Gaston. Todd Animation. One of the interesting things is I've seen on your LinkedIn a lot of concepts you've made with AI. Yeah, and then we're going to talk about that because, like I said, I'm going to show the project he's working on, which is a discussion with that. One thing I don't understand is how do you make the leap if one of those ideas is commissioned? I guess how do you make the leap to AI, to fully doing it AI? Which I'm sure, like I said, you're not the only
Uh-huh.
one that's working to make a fully AI animated film or animated project type of thing. The
Mhm.
question is,
Mhm.
will it get to the point where it's people accept it like they accepted 3D, like they accepted the
Uh-huh.
new thing? That's, like I said, the
Mhm.
transition doesn't get there. Because you remember when 3D came out and humans, it was just taboo for people to do an animation with humans because it was just so hard to get people used to seeing a 3D human. It was, now it's gotten a lot
Mhm.
better. Now, like I said, as the
Mhm.
tools get better, and artists get a hold of those tools, it starts to get a lot more indistinguishable. And trust me, I've had some ZBrush artists on, and I'm trying to get some more on, and their models are incredible. So,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, it's a
just
talented
getting,
artist. Yeah.
yeah, it's just getting better and better as time goes on and on. But again, I think it's all how you look at it. I look at it as they're all tools just to get your story out there. Now,
Right.
we can talk about the ethics of how like generative AI. I don't think any of them talk the same way about like Adobe Sensei is an artificial
Mhm.
intelligence type of
Mhm.
thing, but it's not creating something. That's the big discussion of how these things are kind of created. But in any route, it's funny because, uh, and I'll have to share the video. Aaron Blaze did a kind of critique, so to speak. And I don't know if anybody knows Aaron Blaze, but he's a former animator with 2D animator with Disney. Um,
Hmm.
that's he's going around now promoting his new short animated film, Snow Bear, which is great. But he does great training in a traditional. He's a traditional 2D animator. But he did a review because I guess Corridor Crew tried, that's when AI was just kind of coming up generative and people were trying to do kind of 2D style anime if they could do it. And Corridor Crew did a little animated short type of thing to see if they could, how good it could be AI was in making it. But he said it was good and it was something that, he's excited to see how it progresses as a
Hmm.
technology. But he could easily pick out, of course, the human things that maybe him as an animator could pick out. Maybe the average person might not be able to pick it out,
Hmm.
but he still says it's got a little ways to go to really get to
Hmm.
that quality to where people don't really pick up on some things, and it's just natural type of thing. But again, I think that's just the nature of
Hmm.
technology and change. That awkward step that we as humans
Yeah,
make
it's
from
like
one change.
I always tell people like this: we're in the Atari phase. We haven't even got to PlayStation 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
or 5 yet. Like we're at the very beginning, and that's like looking. Do you remember the Apple II computers back in the day?
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
that's like comparing that to an iPhone and saying it's never going to get there, and just not being able to see. If you've been in this world in a while, like I've been doing this since I was a kid, you just kind of see the progression and like clearly. I
oh
don't know.
yeah.
Maybe I was born sort of a visionary. You can just see. It's not even about predicting. You can just see naturally. Oh, I see where it's going.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's very. It's going to be. I mean, we're. This is the worst it's ever going to be in terms of the quality, and it already looks great if you've seen the newest stuff. So imagine 2 years from now, like
It's gonna get
it's
insane.
going to
And
look.
then again, like I said, creatives are gonna get it's gonna get in the hands of creatives and they're gonna figure out just interesting ways. Like I said, Unreal was a game engine. Nobody thought about
Mhm.
using it as a virtual. Filmmakers didn't think about using it as a virtual environment when it first came out. But somebody
Mhm.
had to think, oh wow, I could use this. I could use this game engine to make a virtual environment that my actors can interact in and they can see
Mhm.
it. That's what I mean. People get a hold, their creatives get their hands on tools that aren't necessarily made for what they use it for or end up using it for, and they come up with these
Mhm.
interesting ways and new ways of doing it. Now all these filmmakers are using Unreal Engine, and Unreal Engine found a new revenue stream, a new way to just resurged. Unreal. At that time it was Unreal Unity. Now everybody thinks
Mhm.
Unreal. You know.
Yeah, I remember when I was started out using Unreal Engine. That was like my thing. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, before pandemic, and that's why I created that group, that nerdy chat group I told you about, because we were all to Unreal Engine. We're like, hey, what if you use this for real actors? What if you had green screen? And we had this whole vision of the possibilities. And of course, 2 years later, that's what everyone started to do. But we saw it early on and started experimenting with it early on. That's why I tell people, hey, pay attention to what's going on in this area. This is like it or not, this is the direction it's going. And I remember saying things very early on, like, hey, we're going to be able to change people's clothing digitally like that. It's going to look like whatever. We know that now. I was saying that like 4 or 5 years ago, and I screenshotted the this is so bad of me. I screenshotted the comment. The person, you don't know what you're talking about. That's never going to happen. Whatever, whatever. So when it did happen, like 2 years later, I sent the link to the video right to that same comment because I saved it. Like, take a look at this. Just gonna leave this
Oh
here for you
man.
to take a look at.
Yeah.
That's what. That's I kind of let people know ahead of time. Like, hey, like just pay attention. This is the way it rolls out.
Well,
And so
like I
yeah, you just got
said,
to be a visionary.
well, like I said, and I think creatives are just creatives. We'll
Yeah.
we'll use what we have to create. Like I said, uh, who was it? I think it was Aaron Blaze. He did a video of doing animation with a crayon. So
Oh,
that's what I
nice,
mean. It doesn't
nice.
matter the tool that you use. They're all
Yeah,
creative tools. They're just things that are
yeah.
just you use what you got to just get your idea out there, whatever it may be. Now, like I said, with the ethics, talking about the ethics of stealing people's art and things like that, that's a different conversation. But as a tool,
Hmm.
it's I'm excited to see how creatives use these tools now. That's why I was so excited when Flo won the Oscar because it just showed I
Hmm.
don't need to use Maya to make a Oscar or even a great film. I can use a free tool to get my idea out and create whatever it is I
Hmm.
want to do. So you got all these tools, like I said, that are available to the masses. And like I
Hmm.
said, in the hands of a creator, just like Blender in the hands of that director came out with a beautiful story and a beautiful animation, and he was rewarded for it. So
Right.
that's what I mean.
I
It said a lot, just that win.
Yeah. I've used when I hire artists to create character designers, and I hire them to create these characters. They're my imagination. I love that collaborative experience. So I'll be able to take that art that I own and then run it through these models and use this art as a instead of doing it traditionally. I would typically use like iClone or Unreal Engine or any of these other
Yeah,
type of things. And now
yeah,
using that same art that I've designed and animating it so much faster.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
I have
it's
a
such a
friend.
cool thing.
She's a traditional painter and artist, but she'll run some of her artwork through, an AI generator just to get different looks and just to get something. That just, so like I said, using it in the hands of, as a creator, she knows how she wants to use, AI and
Mhm.
generative AI to extend her creativity is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
um,
it's amazing. It's exciting times. It's
yeah,
really and it's exciting times, and there's ways to be able to make a living and um, sustain your living or supplement your living as well.
uh, Mr. Gaston has a question, a couple of questions. What do you think of entertainment? I want to get this. What do you think of entertainment in space? Could you see the multi-million budgets doing and going to work up there since AI tools are easily understandable down here? I don't get the question, but maybe you get it.
I think yeah, I think he's asking if we see maybe let's see Hollywood productions using AI to reduce cost since the indies are using it now. Is it possible that maybe higher production values might start using it?
What
To which I'd
AI?
say yes.
They probably
Yeah, I
are
think he's
already
talking
using
specifically.
it
Yeah,
to
they're already using it.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
already
yeah,
using it. That's why we're having some
yeah.
job
They're already using it. Yeah, I mean
uh
they were laying people off by the tens of thousands long before AI even became a
well,
conversation.
yeah, before the
Um,
AI even came, that just just another thing.
yeah.
Mr. J. Anthony, are you casting for your next project? Because, like you said, you do both. You don't just do what we're going to show you is the animation project you're working on, but you, like I said in your bio,
Mhm.
you do both live action and animation. Um, I'm assuming you got to. Well, maybe he knows something. Are you casting for your next project?
I think I will be cast for my next project at some time, but it won't be anytime soon. I'm working
Live
on a feature
action,
film, which we'll
obviously
talk.
live action or animation.
My next project is actually a feature film, an animated feature film. So
Oh, okay.
I will be hiring actors and talent, voice talent, and singers. Not quite yet because I'm still at the very early stages of development. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I do it now. I'm casting singers for these songs. I put out a video today, and I hired a vocalist
Yeah.
to that sort of thing. So
Well, and I'm always interested in. It's interesting to me, just I'm a big proponent of the indie route, of course, the independent creator. But it's, I'm always fascinated and interested, of the ones that are putting together these big projects. Because again, it's not just. Sorry about that. My phone went
That's
off.
right.
It's not. I thought I had it. I thought I had it shut off. Let me make sure. Hey, that's live for you. I tried
Live television.
live, but it's I love the indie creator and stuff. But do you think that this big change is going to come from the indie route or kind of the big studio kind of path?
Well, it's definitely indie route. I mean, look what happened in the book publishing industry. It's all the self-published, indie published um, creators, authors who found genres that the big publishers had no idea even had an audience, and completely changed the industry. Um, so this happened with authors, and the same thing's happening right now with film. It definitely happened in the music industry, obviously, but then I think the same kind of change we saw, this disruption that was in, like, when Kindle came out. This is like, what, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That same kind of thing will happen now with filmmaking and animation, because you've got these creative minds, people globally. If you've got a subscription, you've got $20, $30 a month, and you live in any place in any continent, you have just as much of a chance to be able to create something amazing as someone in the United States.
No.
And so, those, it'll completely.
It's a global world. It's a global market now. It's like, as far as like, competing. If you're going into a job or trying to get into a job, you're not just competing with your classmates that you went to school with. You're competing with people on the other side of the world that, got access now to compete. And especially since it's, a lot of jobs are remote, or some jobs are remote and stuff. It's a global market. But I was gonna say, I'm always, fascinated about the ones that, whether it's a film or animation project, putting a project together, indie wise. Obviously, if you're being funded by a studio, you got the budget to hire assistants and, the things that you need. But trying to put an indie project together, especially even on a short, it takes a lot. Even on a 2-minute type of animation, I've seen people, it takes a long time if you're doing it yourself. And it takes a lot. But
It can be definitely done. I mean, you can hire people, gig economy people from places, here in the United States and outside, to do specific tasks that would save you time. You find out like what you're good at, what only you can do, and then hire people who really love doing, like sound design, or really love doing mixing, or colorist, or editing, or like really, this is what they're great at. They have it down, and you're like, I'd rather focus on what I want to focus on. And so you can definitely do that.
So for you, what are you wanting to focus on the marketing? Because like I said, we're getting ready to take a look at the film that you're working on, animated film that you're working on. Would you rather focus on kind of the promotion and the marketing of it and the building the relationships to get it out there, or the actual hands-on, whether it's audio or animating or whatnot, or, using the AI tool that you may be using or whatnot?
I think, to me, it's the same thing. So as I'm developing projects, I'm putting it out there, getting people's responses. Not only am I getting real-time feedback about the projects, but I'm also building an audience at the same time, finding supporters, and it's attracting people, but it's also repelling the people who don't want anything to do it, which is equally as important. And so you can create, like today, at the piece I put out today, I started this morning and I finished it this afternoon. I already had the song. I think the song was finished, I think, yesterday or the day before that. So it was about, like, creating the images, editing the whole thing, like doing all the stuff. It takes time. It does take a lot of time. If anyone thinks you can type in a few prompts and it comes out the other end, I mean, no, I'm sorry, it's not like that.
Yeah.
I wish. That'd be
I probably should
great.
have you reiterate. Hold on there. Let me where hold on. Let me drop the bomb. It's not. It's not like that.
It's
And that's
not.
just like I said,
When I
and
hear people
that's
say that, I'm like,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I hear people say that, I know they haven't even tried to use these tools. If they're saying that, they haven't even tried to use those tools.
Yeah.
If they think that you can type in a few prompts and it comes out the other end, and people who are like, "Oh, you guys have it easy." Like, have you tried to use these at all? Like, it's not. Yes, of course, it speeds up time. Of course, it does, but
Yeah.
it is not even close to just
No.
typing in a thing and it comes out the other end at
Yeah.
a time.
And see,
Not
that's
even
why
if you're
I
really good
say,
at. Yeah.
and see, that's why I say it's still going to require a human touch.
Right,
What comes
right,
out
right.
of AI, what comes out of that is still, whether it's ChatGPT requiring a human eye to fact check what just came out,
Hmm.
or whether
Hmm.
it's an artist retouching or touching up whatever came out art wise and making it their own type of thing.
Right.
You know, really making it their own. It's a thing to get you started and on a starting path.
Yeah.
It's not the end result. But you get a lot of
Not
people,
even
like I
close.
said,
Yeah.
well, that may be a marketing thing or a bad thing about AI, that they're wanting people to just think that that's how. Maybe that might account for the groundswell in AI, because it's not something new, but all of a sudden it
Right.
became a hot button topic, and just people started talking about it. And I don't know if that was just a thing of, hey, you can just instantly put in a prompt and get you out this, and that was the marketing
It's
type
like,
of thing for it, or what.
wow.
So,
Like, wow. I mean, I wish and I don't wish. I mean, it is a lot of hard work to get it to do what you want it to do. And then what it is it gives you raw footage. Like when you're shooting a documentary or rock shooting or whatever, you're shooting a scripted series, you have lots and lots of takes with the actors. 90% of them are bad, but that 1% or that 10% is good. It's something you can work with. Once you have that
yeah,
raw footage, then you start to have to actually edit and put into an actual story that's going to grab people's hearts and grab
yeah.
their attention and add music and all the all the other things you have to do. So yeah, it's it's a lot of work, a lot of work.
And in the end, uh, regardless of what you use, what tool you use, it's always going to come down to the audience to determine whether it's good or not, or whether they like it or not. You can use
Yeah.
trust me, there's films and movies out there that they spent millions on that I wouldn't go into a movie theater to see. I wouldn't watch it on Tubi for free. So
Do you
that's
find
what I
yourself,
mean.
Don? I'm curious. Do you watch? I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch if I can't find what I want, like on let's say Netflix or Prime or HBO, they call it Max, right? All these things. I just go to YouTube. I find some. I love to watch those like those UAP UFO nonsense stuff, and I like to watch also like the ones that are like science based, and I like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
watch
yeah.
the ones that are just like ancient aliens. Like if I can't find what I want, I go with these very niche subjects which evidently have millions of fans, and this is what's great about a creator economy that we're in now. You can create some story about a potato that nobody wants except for that audience,
Yeah, yeah,
and that audience loves that potato story,
yeah.
and it's
And
okay.
they've got so many streaming platforms out there that they're just looking for content. You know, of course, you
Yeah,
got different
yeah,
levels, obviously, but
right.
if you're just starting out, and just want to get your stuff in front of a audience, there's platforms out there that you can work out a deal, or you pay them a little something or whatnot, or they see your content
Mhm.
and just want you on the platform that you can just get out there and just start. So that's what I mean. There's so many things out there to get your idea. Platforms for you to to get your content out there. Platforms for you to fund it and finance it, Kickstarter and all those other ones. Platforms or your social platforms to your own. There's just too many platforms and things out there for you not to be able to create whatever it is that you want to create out there. Me personally, I don't do anymore. Like I used to have like cable, but that just got too expensive. So now, really for me,
Mhm.
really for me, out Netflix, YouTube, and Tubi are enough
Mhm.
for me. And
Yeah,
I like
to be
Tubi.
fun.
Tubi's
Yeah,
free, and they have a lot of the old movies that I
right.
like to watch. And
Yeah,
they have even some of the
me
newer
too.
ones that come in. Tubi's great. If you,
Yeah,
they're not
I
a
love the movies from
sponsor.
the '80s and '90s, and yeah,
They're
I
not a
love watching
sponsor.
those. I was watching. I love watching the mafia movies. I love
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Casino, and I love those. I love like Godfather, and I love watching those movies in the 80s and 90s. Like I just watched what's the one with Meryl Streep and Bruce Willis, and she
Oh, Death
like
Becomes
she
Her.
can't die.
Death
Yes, I
Becomes
watched
Her.
that the other day
Yeah,
on like Tubi or something like that. I like to
yeah,
watch
yeah.
those ones
Oh,
from
Tubi's great.
back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tubi
yeah,
is
I like.
great. They're not a sponsor, but Tubi, hey, if you want to sponsor,
Hey,
that
yeah.
might can. I mean, I might can work with you because you are media and entertainment, so you
Right,
might work with you. I
right.
love Tubi. It's free, and like I said, they have a lot of great movies on there. So, for me,
Don,
Kate,
there was a question you had from one of your because there's something about a studio. Was asking something about
let's
a studio. I would
see,
love to answer that question.
studio. Oh,
He was asking
because
something about
Todd, because a lot of studios
yeah.
won't accept. Yeah, there are a lot of studios now. Not just studios. There's a lot of publishers that aren't accepting AI written
Mhm,
content.
mhm,
There's a lot of things
mhm.
out. So it's going to be the individual. It's going to come up to the individual person, the individual company, how their stance on how they're going to take for or against AI. So.
The thing is, I want to make sure I understand this question because is he looking for to create something and then partner with a studio? Is he looking to sell his I'm not sure what he's talking about because I can tell you
Well,
a few
I'm
things.
assuming he's saying a creator that makes, say, a completely AI animation and then, say, trying to sell it to Netflix or whatnot,
Mm.
or because I'm
I
pretty
don't know.
sure,
Yeah.
like I said, that's if you're creating it yourself. I'm pretty sure if you
Mhm.
or creating a, say, like, I don't know, pitch idea to take to a studio to get. Now the studio will probably tell
Mhm.
you, I don't know, hey, this is what we do and don't accept as far as like the content. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Netflix. I don't know. Maybe that'd be
I
great to
mean,
have
I
somebody
can
on
tell
from
you because I
Netflix.
talk to those kind of people all the time, so I can give him a little bit of an idea. So, like, if you're looking to, let's say you have a finished project and it's done, and you're just trying to license it out
Yeah,
to a platform like a Netflix, it's very possible that they will acquire it. Very possible,
but it's
assuming that
gonna
you
have
have
to
because
be
you have the
Netflix.
same.
It's gonna have to be Netflix quality for them. It's gonna have to be to
Yeah.
their level of okay what they want as far as their animation on
With
their
that too, and
platform.
you had the same deliverables you need to do with any other film. You need to have all the
Yeah,
rights lined up and all the things. The same thing you need. I've talked to a production company that sells stuff all the time to the what he might call studios or whatever, and it's 100% generated by AI. So yes, they will buy that. They will buy it. So it's just have to have a great story. Like I said, it has a certain level of broadcast quality. It has to have a great compelling story. It has to be for their audience that they serve. It's got to be a lot of different things.
yeah.
But also, like to your point about Don, there's lots of streamers that will do it. You can put it up on YouTube. You might have a better
You might,
audience
yeah, you better
on
get a
YouTube.
bigger audience,
Yeah.
and trust me, if they see that you got a big following, or they say, like I said, you went to them and they say, no, we don't want to run this, and you say, okay, fine, I'll run it on my
Mhm.
YouTube channel, and they get over 5 million
Mhm.
views and stuff like that. Trust me, they're gonna come back to you
Yeah, they do. I see it all the
and
time.
come
I've
a
had clients
knocking.
do that. Literally, I'll give you an example. I was working with a family that had animated content. They actually used Fiverr to create their content. They had millions of fans. My job was turning down every single major music label, was chasing them, calling me up, asking to sign them, offering very lucrative contracts. And the reason why I was hired to say no is because they didn't need them. They were already making a few $1 million a year anyway, just from YouTube. So they didn't
Yeah,
need it. Every major studio was coming, calling us up. So yeah, they'll come to you. That happened to
yeah,
me, as I told you, with my own self-published novel. It was Warner came after I'd already created
yeah.
the audience for it.
They already
They said
published.
that works. Yeah.
And it puts you in so much more of a powerful position because you don't need to do it if you don't want to. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
You, yeah.
You're in the
And
position now. I don't really need to partner with you. No,
yeah.
thank you, but no.
Yeah, thank you. But if it makes sense. Or some people's dream, it is their dream to one day work with these people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if it has to make sense to you,
Yeah, it has
and
to
so
make
yeah,
sense to you. Yeah, because trust
that's why I
me,
tell
like
people
it's
greenlight themselves. You know.
yeah, trust me, they which I don't think anybody else. Yeah, trust me, they went to Mr. Beast and offered him a truckload, a train tractor load of money for his show.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
train tractor
So,
loads of money for his show. And he turned them down. So that means that's
huh?
the power of how you can control your own content, if you really want to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a path. That's what I tell everybody to greenlight themselves. What I tell everybody, even if you do want to work with Hollywood, to create your own projects, create your own audience, and then they'll come to you. Trust me, they will.
Yeah.
I've had every major studios come to
Yeah.
me to offer
Well, I want
opportunities.
to ask you this too, because obviously this is the big thing now, even though he's not the first. But obviously, people are talking about Ryan Coogler's deal with Warner
Hmm.
Brothers on Sinners and stuff like that. And like I said, even though he's not the first director or the last director to get a deal like that, and Warner Brothers isn't the first studio or the last studio to offer a deal like that. But obviously, he had a lot more cachet because of the films that he done before that made some money, so that gave him room legs to stand on. But obviously, it set him up for future, just generational wealth because the rights come back to him. Do you see
Hmm.
more creators now looking at that and saying, okay, well, like I said, it's original. Obviously, it's an original idea type of thing for your
Hmm.
own story and content.
Yeah, because think about it now. Right now, you own 100% of the rights to your project. So if you create your own audience, you will always own 100% rights to it. You have no need to partner with a studio if you don't want to, or a streamer if you want to. You can license your content out to these different platforms and still retain 100% ownership of it. You could sign exclusively to domestically to the United States and then still keep the international rights, but you
Yep.
own 100% of it. So if I don't know how the financial structure of Ryan Coogler's film, which is a brilliant film by the way, if he financed it himself or what he did exactly. But if he wanted to, now he could go back to his Fruitville days and finance something and then license it out. But you understand now that like these creators, they own 100% of their content right now. They
Yeah,
don't
right
need
now.
some special deal with a studio, right?
Yeah.
So you can license it to somebody if you really want to, anything that's going to level you up, but you already own 100% of the rights. You're not waiting for 25 years to get the rights back. You own it. So is it
Yeah.
going to really elevate you and give you a lot of money and acclimates and acclaim to work with these studios? Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not. I don't know. But
And
there's
again,
people who have never. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I'll say afterwards. Go ahead.
Sure. There's people who've never, like 99% of the world have never heard of, but they're making millions of dollars, scripted projects, not even just animation, scripted projects, and they're making millions of dollars um, on YouTube, and their audience knows who they are,
Yeah.
and they're doing it the way they want to, and they will own 100% of their project.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah, and like I said, and if they're savvy enough, which kind of leads into my thought, or what I was gonna say, is yeah, it's gonna take a lot of effort on your part to manage a brand. Now it's a business that you're managing. Like I said, not everybody's cut out for that, which is why some people just want to get a 9 to 5 job and go to work, do my
Mhm.
work, come back, and or just let me create, sell it, or create this to get into a studio. They don't want to worry about you know the things that they can create from their IP, whether it's products or just
Mhm.
additional IP and things like that. It's not for everybody. To say keeping that in mind, not everybody's cut out to manage and be an entrepreneur, I guess is
But
what
you
I'm
can
saying.
hire the people that the
Yeah, you
studios
can,
lead
you
off,
know.
and
But again, some people don't even want to
to
go through.
consult, and you can put together your own team. And They don't even want to do that. They just want to roll out of bed, make
Yeah,
the
they
creative,
just
and
want to
go to
roll,
work, and that's
and
okay. It's
trust
nothing.
me,
Everyone
I've
does like
talked
that.
to some artists like that. I just want to do art. I just want to go, you know, get a check, you know, try to get
Hmm.
my benefits, get into a studio, get a steady job, so I can get benefits and just steady income, and that's it.
Hmm.
But they're the ones that, like I said, they're creative and they're entrepreneurial in the sense that they just got to get stuff out and they're able to get stuff out, but still figure out how to monetize it and do the work about
Hmm.
monetizing, marketing the things and getting out there, networking and all that kind of stuff. As far as that, and like you said, it takes a lot of work to put, whether it's
Hmm.
animation or live action, to put a short together, let alone a full length, you know, together.
Yeah.
So
I hope that people are realizing it's a myth. The stability of studios with tens of thousands of jobs being lost. It's a myth. It's not a stable job. So to want to get a job in a studio and think that you're going to have it for 30, 40, 50 years when they've unceremoniously laid off very talented
it's
people,
hard.
to,
I
you
tell
know, like
people,
so.
yeah, I tell people those days are really very far and few between. And I'm not just talking about the animation industry. I'm just talking about any profession. It's hard to be in those jobs that you're there for 35, 40 plus years. You know, it's, you know, rare. Like I said, I work with a couple of people that have been at the company that I do work for 35 plus years. Now
Mhm.
those days are, you know, especially studios where they're ramping up and ramping down per project. You know, as projects
Yeah.
need. Now I don't have to hire. I can just ramp up and ramp down as needed. So it puts a lot of people in that kind of journeyman mode of having to go from one job to the next or get this job lined up type of thing. And if that's fine, you
Yeah.
know, if that's the route you want to go, it's fine. But I say in the meantime, work on your own stuff and put your own stuff out there because you just never know, you
Mhm.
know, what opportunities
And
come from
there's,
that.
I think I love it when Gary Vaynerchuk talks about like there's some people who are really great number twos or number eights in the company. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. But this is the thing about the creator economy. There's people who've got like millions of fans and they're making money. They can give you a six-figure income salary. So you can, instead of working for, let's say, Warner Discovery or Netflix, you can find, you know, Joe Schmo 208 on YouTube, and he's got comfortable living. He can offer you if you will be his head of ops or his marketing person or his DP or whatever. So there's actually a lot more opportunities if you're willing to look down the creator path. It may not have a fancy label like, you know, Sony or something like that. But there's opportunities out there if you really just want to show up and do your job. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing. But maybe look beyond the 5 studios that there are left.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you that. Do you think that most people are trying to get into the big, you know, the big three, big five, Pixar, Disney, Sony? You know, they're all trying to get into
Yeah,
those big studios when there's a lot of smaller, independent studios that are working on some amazing things that you can really
yeah,
have more control and more hands-on type of thing.
yeah. I think there's still people who are hoping to kind of have the golden ticket and get chosen by these studios, and they don't want to hear. They're probably very upset about this conversation. They don't want to hear that the studio. They want to believe that it's going to magically come back to life and become the way it was 5 years ago. And anything happen and miracles happen. So, but the reality is, there's a lot of opportunity if you're willing to go the creative route. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to do it yourself. You can be a great number 8, number 7 at the company. It's a different company, and you can make a living. And it may not have a fancy name attached to it, but you can supplement your income a lot. So
Yeah,
there's actually opportunities out there. Yeah, not everyone likes to. No one, not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Um, they just
yeah.
want to collect their check, get their benefits, you know, take their kids out to the baseball game, and that's it.
And that's and
You know,
again, nothing wrong with that. Trust me, I've done it and this and that. But you know, there's just some that they just have to get that thing out of them, and they just want to do their own thing eventually. They're trying to get there. Miss
yeah.
Ashley, green light yourself. Yes. I think,
Exactly.
betting on yourself is always, I think, always the best thing. I mean, may not always pay off, but you're betting on yourself. And when it does hit, it hits big. When you bet on
Yeah.
yourself, that type
But
of
here's the
thing.
great thing about the Don is that the barrier to entry is a lot cheaper
Oh,
and
yeah.
easier to get in. So the
Oh, yeah.
cost of producing it. So you're betting on yourself, but at a fraction of what it was
Yeah.
3 years
Fraction
ago.
what it used to
So
be. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Mr. Todd, I think clarified it. Sorry. I mean, if you pitch something with AI and then it gets commissioned, how do you then make it in real life if you don't have those skills? Well, I guess
Okay.
that's the whole thing. If you're pitching an AI film, you're going to do it in AI. You're going to create it, or whoever artist, that's how they're creating it, I'm assuming. If
You
it's
can. I
if it's
pitched
something
recently.
that you're pitching to be made.
Yeah, I pitched recently to a very well-known studio using AI for my source material. The first comment to them was like, "Whoa! Like those visuals are amazing." They had no idea I had used AI to create it. They couldn't tell.
Yeah.
That's how good. That's how far we've come. And so my thought was, if I do partner with them, it would be that they would take it over or partner with me and they do certain things. So it could be used just as a pitch material.
Mm,
But the way I like to do things traditionally is just to create the thing myself.
yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be AI; it could be Unreal Engine. But yeah, they can commission you, Todd, to maybe then they'll give you enough of a budget that if you really want to use something other than AI to work, all the other harmony and all the other different things. I don't know what kind of animation he does, but you can then use that budget and use some other tool other than AI. But if you want to initially use it for source materials, like a nice sizzle reel or deck even, initially, and then later on when you get a budget, go use it the way you want. You
Yeah.
can, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I think a few people do that. They may do something in Blender, and then if they get a budget, okay, well, we got the budget. Let's get some my artists and really polish it up. So depends on how you're,
yeah.
like you said, how you're wanting to use it, type of thing. And we're
I've been
getting ready to
using. I've been
take.
using.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've been using. I've been using AI as one form or another for at least 2 years, and I've definitely sold projects and gotten projects bought by traditional by using it. Absolutely, they just don't care. They just want something great.
Uh, and we're getting ready to take a look, and we're gonna let, as it always is, you, the viewers, make that decision on whether you like it or don't like it, type of thing. I think, like I said, it's definitely come a long way, and with apps like Sora and Dolly, and yeah, they're making big strides in AI and generative AI and things like that. So, like I said, I'm not a user per se in the sense of creating the whole piece in AI type of thing, but I'll use it in conjunction with my artwork and what I'm creating to do it. So, type of thing. But again, it's coming a long way. Definitely coming a long way. But before we do that, like I said, let's take a look and dive into deeper. Let's take a look, and I'll save this question for when we come back. But let's take a quick look at the demo reel.
They say he was born cursed. A changeling. A lie.
I was raised a prince, but I was never truly their son.
We were never supposed to meet. We were never supposed to fall in love. But the ancestors had other plans.
They chained me because they fear what I would become. But love is the greatest power they'll never control.
If I must burn down the kingdom to love him, then let it burn.
I'm not a curse.
There you go. You see it. Yeah, like I said, it's come a long way. Of course, me watching it, you can see the little things but it's come a long way. And obviously, like you were saying, it's really finessing things. If you're gonna go the whole route with AI, you'd have to be sitting there finessing prompts up the yin yang to get there. That's why I say you're still going to have a human touch to fix, even if you use AI for 80% to get you 80-90% there. You're still going to have a human touch take you that 10% to really make it something. Because even as good as that was, I could see the little things that, okay, this is, that immediately take you out of the story. That's the whole purpose of animation. Good animation is you're not thinking of it as animation. You're just engrossed in the story. But like I said, those little things which are like humans, when CG, like it just said, when 3D came out, humans just didn't look human. There are some things the human eye is just naturally going to pick up on that. It's just, if you're, like I said, strictly going to leave it to AI, it's going to take a while for AI to get that good. But if you let AI take you 80% of the way there, then get a talented artist to polish it up and really make it good, then, like I said, you're still going to need a human touch and a human artist to make it really good type of thing. But it was great. Like I said, I think we're going to, because I wanted to ask you this myself, but let's hop back over here. Where is that question at? Yeah. What kind of AI software are you utilizing for that? Because like I said, there are a lot of great ones out there. And they're coming out. New ones are coming out every day. Actually, a friend of mine just told me about Artistly. I think that's how it's pronounced. Artistly. .ai or it's an AI tool, kind of like Dolly stuff, but
There's so many of them. Yeah. I mean,
there's so many.
I think the video you sent, I think I did it about a month or so ago, I think. And it's already gotten way better than even that, way better. And so, yeah, but also I think sometimes when we have to think, sometimes we think from the viewpoint of a professional. We've been doing this craft for a while. We're looking at that. And what a regular person from Nebraska and Arizona and Oregon, what they expect and their view of what good is, they may not ever be able to see those little intricacies that we see, that we're like, oh, he doesn't have squash and stretch. He doesn't have this and that. That means it's not good. We're looking at it through those viewpoints. When a regular person just wants a great story, they may or may not care about the style of.
Well, you don't. That's what I mean. When it's a great story, and when it's done well, you really don't care how it's made. Because trust me, like I said, I've seen some great pencil animation drawings that were just beautifully animated. They were hand animated, but it wasn't Disney. It was just a sketch drawing, but it was beautifully done and beautifully animated. So you don't think about that. And like I said, it's really just the story behind whatever, medium that you're using to tell your story.
To answer their question, I think on this one, I'm trying to remember what I used. I definitely Midjourney. I was definitely using. I probably used Runway. I probably used Minimax. Now I've used different tools. So I primarily use definitely Midjourney's come a long way. I definitely use Luma as a big one. That really gets it up to that great level. I use Adobe Premiere. I use Adobe Audition, Adobe Creative Suite in general. I use Motion Array for a little bit of sound design and some royalty-free music. I might use 11 Labs sometimes. If I'm not hiring a casting, if I'm casting a real actor or vocalist, I will either use their voice or alter their voice. And I use Runway sometimes. Sometimes only Runway will do certain things. There's a bunch of other ones out there, and sometimes, there's Pika. I forgot about that. Maybe see if it will do this one thing. So sometimes I'll have these other ones I have subscriptions to. Like if I've tried the 3 or 4 I normally use and they're not getting it, I might try some of these other ones. But there's some great ones coming out that are even some open source ones. And
well, it's interesting because I've seen like some short films that. And I guess people were just trying to see if they could do it, if they could make it a film. But that was just all stock footage.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make a film with just all stock footage and make it a compelling story that people engage with. So, I mean, you can get hung up. We can get kind of hung up in that. But I think creatives, like I said, they just use the things. We just kind of like, I want to say handymen and handywomen. We use the tools that are around us to create the things that we want to create.
Right.
And if, and most artists, they will experiment. Even if that's not the main way they do things, they'll experiment with different tools just to see what else other style they can come out with, or just how they can use that thing that, they maybe said, I'll never use this. Maybe one day just use it. And, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Just start doing artwork that way type of thing. Yeah. That's how I try to look at creativity as a whole. I mean, you can get hung up on, I can easily get hung up, which is why I hate the versus conversation, Mac versus PC, this versus that type of thing.
Right.
It really doesn't make a difference,
Yeah.
What
I definitely hear the tide.
Yeah.
The tide is definitely changing. You definitely hear conversations behind closed doors of people that are definitely experimenting with all of these tools. And some of the naysayers are now the biggest advocates now. And I love that. And some people think, it's a generational thing, but like there's a lot of like boomers who have really been into technology, because you think about it, they went from the phonographs to the records to the reel-to-reel 8-track.
That's why I said I am I'm not a boomer. I think I'm a Gen X. I was just a year after the baby boomer age, but I'm pre-internet, pre-computer. Well, the computers were out, but they weren't being used for art or anything like that. No cell phones, all that stuff. There were mailboxes on the corner. Everybody waited to mail, all that stuff. I remember, but I enjoy, and so I've seen this progression of art and how things are created. Hell, even when I started in graphic design, I was doing everything we were doing everything manually, paste up, manually pasting the artwork on boards and running them over to the camera.
That's exactly my point, Don, is that boomers have seen it go from phonograph to record, from, let's say, reel to 8-track, from the 45s to this, they've seen the progression of technology and the speed of which so that's why a lot of boomers are really embracing this technology, because to them it's just another, like, they've seen and they're grabbing hold of it and they're like using it, and the first ones out the gate.
I will say this. I think it's the boomers that were creative. Now, I've got older brothers and sisters that just really resist learning how to work a computer or their phone. They really struggle with technology and kind of just really embracing it. So I get it. Like, creatives probably will step to it a little bit easier than, say, the average person moving from, a rotary phone to trying to figure out how to use a smartphone. That's a big step for a baby boomer, that didn't use it. Now, the younger ones, obviously, like I said, they're coming out the womb with a phone in their hands and type of thing. So, the bigger the step, the harder it is, or the more drastic the step, the harder it is for even the older ones to kind of grasp onto it. Because I constantly have conversations with my sisters talking about, well, how to turn on your computer. I don't know how you.
Yeah, my mom loves technology.
There's some people that do. I love technology. Like I said, I'm kind of at that cusp age of a baby boomer. Like I said, I know before all this technology, but I love technology, so that's why it's not a hard step for me. Grasping all this stuff.
Yeah, some people, some of my nieces and nephews are into it. Some of them don't even know how to turn on a computer, like you said. So it's not even a generational thing. It's more about like kind of interest and who's maybe passionate about this or that. And I love it. I think we're in one of the most exciting times for creatives in history. There's a lot to be sorted it out, a lot of the rights issues and things like that we talked about, dabbled in a little bit, but yes. But I think that it's still one of the greatest times in history for creative.
Well, again, it's always the legalities always follow afterwards because just think about it. When the automobile first came out, I'm pretty sure they had a ton of accidents. You know, safety wasn't the biggest thing. It's usually that progression that that fuels changes. Okay, well, maybe we need to get stop signs. Maybe we need to get, you know, all these things in place to make driving an automobile safer. So it's just this, you know, it's always this journey, you know, and it's just fascinating when you sit and think about it from that kind of perspective of technology. Is the steps that we go to. I'm pretty sure the plane was the same way. You know, just getting people to fly, just getting
Yeah.
something so drastically different to become mainstream. Think about that. It's a very big step going from candles and kerosene lamps to electricity. It's a big step. You know, it's a big
Yeah.
step. So,
Absolutely.
like I said, we've been having a fun conversation. Like I said, this conversation was going to be high level, and it really is talking about just this time. That's why I was excited to sit and talk to you because I know the posts that you do and speak about, and I'm really passionate about, you know, even for the ones that are looking to get into a 9-to-5 job and just a job. I'm really passionate about owning your own IP and controlling your own IP because I see how even when you do try and go into a deal somehow on even footing, working with these big studios, you just don't come out of it of the big, you know, on equal footing type of thing. And I never understood that. That's why I love this time because now this industry is on equal footing. I don't have to come to you to make money if I want to, you know, make a living in that. I can make a really good living just going straight to my audience and talking with them. And they'll determine whether or not my content is good or not good type of thing. And I'm not capped by you. I'm not hemmed by you saying, well, maybe you need to make this character this way, or maybe we need to tone down this type of thing. I can say directly what I want to say type of thing. And have, like I said, have all these channels to do that type of thing. So very exciting times that we live in. Very exciting times if you are a creator. What's been the best piece of advice that's been given to you so far that's really helped you?
I think it's probably to listen to your own instincts. You know, when I, you know, being a black kid growing up culturally, we're taught to listen to our elders. The elders automatically know everything, and we have to listen to every word. And I am so glad that I listened to my own instincts and did what felt right. Because sometimes they were basing their judgment on their personal experience, which wasn't the same path I was going on. So you have to have this balance where you like listen to take what they say with a grain of salt and really listen to it because there's some really great wisdom with that. But I think following my instincts and saying like, hey, actually, like I'll give you an example. One of my friends is an Oscar winner and has produced like half of the biggest films of all time. And he told me, do not self-publish. Don't do it. It'll ruin your career and this and that. And it didn't feel right to me, so I did it anyway. And so many doors opened up for it. And that's just one example of when I just listened to my own instinct
Yeah.
and did what I wanted to do, what felt right for me and my path. That's the best advice I ever
Well, I'm
got.
curious what his thought was after that, and you had the success and the opportunities that came out of that. What his thoughts are now, especially now as time went on and more people are self-publishing things and doing things themselves. Is his thought still the same that you shouldn't go that route?
Um, Probably not. I mean, I ended up self-publishing another book, which became the book I got acquired by Warner. His wife fell in love with the book. I self-published that book. I think his view has changed. Things have changed. Look about the technology has changed
Yeah.
for authors. So like, it doesn't have the same stigma that it did back then. It's actually a sense of pride. So I think he's probably changed. He came from a time when that's what you couldn't do that. You were not allowed
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
and he's definitely
Thank God
changed.
for Amazon and Kindle and
All those different
opening
things.
that up. Now we
Yeah,
can be authors if you want.
yeah,
Which, like I said, now that was a big thing. Obviously, when that came out and started getting traction, book publishers were like, "Oh well, now they can self-publish and cut us out right off the bat," type of thing.
right.
So it makes, I think, pressure makes each side better.
Yeah,
Like technology pushes innovation, innovation pushes technology, type of thing. You know, so
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
uh, man, I remember you asked me how long are these interviews. We are going on an hour and a half.
It's all good. It's all good.
We're going on an hour and a half, but it's been a fun interview so far. I definitely want to ask you a couple of more questions before we kind of bring this train into the station here. I want to speak on. We know you're passionate about owning your own independent, content and stuff. Why are you passionate on, underdeveloped, underrepresented communities? Tell us, talk about why you're passionate about, just that, and how excited or how you see more stories coming from underrepresented creators coming out in the future.
I'm passionate about it because I am from the community. First and foremost, that's why. And I see so many really talented people from our community, and not just the Black and Brown community, like communities from the LGBTQ plus, from disabilities, the different communities,
Yeah.
rural communities. So there's stories that need to be told, and now that's why I'm so excited because we're in a place where people can, if they're willing to put the work in, for a little bit of money, can start to put stuff out. It's
Yeah.
not the investment. So that's why I'm passionate about it.
So, well, I want to ask you because I've asked, and this will be my final question before we kind of close it out. Because I have had like different organizations, specifically in animation, because there's Lixa, Latinas in animation. I've had guests on from AIA, Asians in animation. There's an animation group for it seems like every diverse group out there. And my question was, do you see any time where we're all going to come collectively together to harness this collective power that we all have, because we're all going after the same thing individually, just representation and diversity. Do you see, that happening or not happening, or more of us as, individual ethnic groups and underrepresented groups coming together and making a big statement?
It could happen. Maybe some I won't say disaster, but something happened that pulled us all together possibly. But the question is like, do we need that? Can you just get started? I think a lot of times people spend so much time trying to grab everybody together like herding cats in order to do the thing. Why not just do the thing? And you find somebody, you look to your left, look to the right, who's working together, and you can come together and work on something, or at least be there peer to peer. I don't think we need to grab everybody to be all the things at the same time. We're not a monolith. So I think it's great to have groups together who've got something similar backgrounds, but we don't need to do that in order to accomplish the thing. It's just an added benefit. It's great. And it's a wonderful thing. That's why I support these communities, but it's not necessary in order to move forward.
Got you. Everybody, again, as we've closed this out, we've had an amazing conversation. Like I said, I never get to all the questions that I have, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing in the sense that, or a bad thing in the sense that I don't get through all the questions that I want to, but good thing in the sense that gives them the opportunity to have them back on the show. So definitely looking forward to having Jeff back on the show, especially as, this project that you're working on comes into more, fruition, coming back on the show to promote it and get it out there. Like I said, I think there's always room for great storytelling. I don't try to get too hung up on the tools that are used. Now, again, the ethics of the legalities and the ethics of generative AI. That's a separate content. But as far as a tool, I'm excited to see the content that people are going to create, such as yourself, with AI, generative AI, and the stories that will be told. You know, so I cannot thank you enough, Jeff, for coming on and being a part of the show, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and your passion for the industry. You obviously have a love and a passion for what you do, and super excited to see where this project goes from here.
Thank you so much, Don. I appreciate that, and a happy 5-year anniversary.
Thank you. 5 years. And again, like I said, any way that the Color of Motion is able to help or promote the things that you're working on, that's what family is for. If you could hang out in the green room while I close out the show, that'd be great. But everybody, again, please help me thank again my very special guest and friend, Mr. Jeff Rivera, for coming on the show and gracing us with his presence.
I love that.
Hang on a second there, Jeff, while I close this puppy out. Oh, man. These shows have been, like I said, season 5 has been fire so far. We've had some amazing guests, and it's just going to continue. That's why I love doing it. And next week is going to be no exception for sure. I'm super excited about next week's guest, Mr. Carlos Mendoza III, creative director and illustrator with Red Raven Studios, is going to come on, and we're going to have some amazing stuff. They do a lot of interactive stuff and immersive content as well. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and having a fun conversation with Carlos and just jamming it up. Mr. Gaston, awesome energy, everyone. I really enjoyed both of your conversation and time today. Keep it rolling and the excellence. Appreciate that, Mr. Gaston. And I hope and I know that this isn't going to be the last time that I see you in the audience. So appreciate that. Thank you very much. All righty. Well, like I said, as we close this one down, this has been another amazing episode, and I cannot thank you enough for always giving me just a little bit of your time on a Saturday afternoon and gracing us. So with that, have a great Saturday, great rest of your weekend, and a productive week. And I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.